All right, welcome back, Failsafe Investors. And if you haven't been following my page, this is Failsafe Wealth, where I give you tips and my opinion on pretty much how to build wealth from your own home or wherever you are, and through investments and things like that. So usually on this page, I do something that I haven't really come up with a name for, where I take two companies in the same industry or sector, and I pretty much put them head to head against each other. But before I put them head to head against each other, I do separate videos that go into detail about these two companies. So a couple days ago, I did a video on AT&T, so I figured why not do T-Mobile, a young up-and-comer in the wireless telecommunication field. So let's go. Let's go. Hey, I'm back. So for everyone that don't know, I'm the one that taught Terry everything that he knows. My name is Failure. No, it's not spelled like that. There you go. You got it now. So my name is Failure, and we don't have that much time. So let me tell you everything that you need to know about T-Mobile. So T-Mobile became a company in 2013, and since then they've pretty much changed the communication service industry. So T-Mobile was the company that came out with the Un-carrier idea, and that was from the CEO at the time, John Legere. So T-Mobile makes all of its money in revenue from its communication side. They pretty much operate in one way, but they've been growing like a weed since 2013. So since 2013, they've added 53 or 56 million subscribers to their company, and they've been taking like customers from AT&T and Verizon together. So like as AT&T and Verizon numbers go down, T-Mobile numbers goes up. But they're pretty profitable. They made about $44 billion last year in 2019. And in 2015, they were making about $30 billion or something that year. So they're pretty profitable. But I wouldn't just look at T-Mobile in that way. Like in 2018, they announced a merger with Sprint. So your top four communication services is AT&T at number one, Verizon at number two, T-Mobile at number three, and then Sprint at number four. So even with the merger of T-Mobile and Sprint, which went through April 1st, 2020, and we'll talk about in a minute, even with that merger, they'll still be the third largest communication carrier. But they'll be huge, and even with that merger, they'll have more bandwidth, so they can lower their prices and compete with Verizon and AT&T, which will probably bring in more customers also. But I can't mention AT&T. Oh, sorry about that. I can't mention T-Mobile without talking about its CEO, John Legere. So he is the man that's been with them since 2012. He's the one that came up with the Un-carrier idea. He is T-Mobile. He has cooking shows. He does a lot. He's like a charismatic CEO. He's like one of those people that you just can't hate. Remind you of anyone? But yeah, you gotta love this guy. And April 1st, 2020, since the T-Mobile and Sprint merger went through and became official, he stepped down immediately, and then he stepped down from the board of directors right after that, like April 24th, like immediately, pretty much severing all ties with T-Mobile. And the only bad thing or negative thing about that is we don't know anything about his replacement. So his replacement name is Mike Sievert, and that's who the board wanted to replace John Legere. And we don't know anything about him. He has no social media that I can find. If you Google his name, he doesn't have really that much of a history. And if you look up John Legere, he has a successful track record with T-Mobile. He took this company to pretty much the stars. They won the JD Power Award last year. Like, this is a growth company. They are growing rapidly. And last year they listed 86 million total subscribers, T-Mobile, and Sprint listed 54, 56, and combined they'll have over 100 million subscribers after combined, and also their bandwidth and network will also double, and they'll just be known under T-Mobile. So this is a good thing. The only thing that I say I would look out with T-Mobile is the new CEO, because we don't know what the future has in store with this guy. I'm just being honest. At least with John Ledger, we know what we get. We know in hard times, we know he can take this company to new lengths. We don't know with Mike Sievert. But that was just me telling you everything you need to know about the company. And now we're going to send it right back on over to Terry. Okay, T-Mobile, ticker symbol TMUS, selling around $92 a share currently, and has a market cap, or should I say large market cap, of $81 billion, has an earnings per share of $4 per share, whoo, and has a price to earnings ratio of 23. They currently do not pay a dividend, but I will put this in a growth stock category, and I'm gonna give you a couple of reasons why. So they don't pay a dividend, their price to earnings is 23 right now, and their projected earnings growth is at a 2. So the projected earnings growth, or PEG, is pretty much the price to earnings, but just projected over the next 5 years. So over the next 5 years, they are expected to pretty much double their earnings like crazy. And then not to mention, if you compare the T-Mobile to like the S&P 500, which is like the top 500 companies in the stock market, and if you compare it to the Dow Jones, which is selling around like $24,000, $23,000 a share, $23,000 right now, the index is at least. And if you compare it to the NASDAQ, which is like your top 3 indexes in the market, T-Mobile is outperforming all of them. If you can literally compare all of them, if you look at it, S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the NASDAQ, which has Amazon in it, T-Mobile is outperforming all of them. So if you ask me, I would say that T-Mobile price is definitely expected to go up in the near, intermediate, and long-term future. And it's probably because of the Sprint merger. It hasn't really had any spikes yet recently, but the deal did just go through April 1st, and they're up by like 30% over the year. So I'm just gonna say, I would definitely call this a growth stock. But like I said, we can't just look at that when we look into a company. So you gotta wait for the numbers to come in. 1 second. All right, so let's do it. Let's do what we love to do. Look at the financial statements. So when it comes to T-Mobile's balance sheet, I'm just gonna give you the numbers. I'm gonna let you come to your own conclusion about if this is the company right for you. So I'm pretty sure Failure has already told you that T-Mobile has a revenue of $44 billion. So from that $44 billion, they have $1.5 billion in cash and short-term investments, and about $4.7 billion in loan receivables. So that's money that's to be given to them in this next 12 months, or recently, or sometime this year in the next 12 months. And they have a current assets of $9.5 billion, I think, or a little over $9 billion. So that's pretty good. But like I said, you have to also weigh the current assets, which is everything that can be liquidated in the next 12 months, to the current liabilities. So when we look at T-Mobile's current liabilities and debt, which is everything that's due within these next 12 months, or within this year pretty much, let's say within 2020. So due before January 1st of 2021, they have $12.5 billion in liability. So that's due before January 1st. Now, in a case like T-Mobile, like I said, I'm just gonna give you the numbers and let you come up with your own conclusion on that. But I will say that they can raise capital, they can issue debts, they can issue more shares of the company. But if they issue more shares of the company, that would dilute the shares that shareholders already have. And by dilute, I mean that the shares that shareholders already have will be worth less. So I doubt if they go that route. A lot of companies don't like to raise capital like that. They'd rather issue out bonds and pay interest on the bonds than they issue out more shares. But they do have more debt than they do have assets that can be liquidated right now. But that's not a bad thing. The reason that's not a bad thing is that when we look at their total assets, which meaning like we throw in the property, plants, and equipment and everything, they have $86.9 billion in total assets, right? So that's pretty solid number. That's good, especially when you weigh that out against their total liabilities, which is like long-term liabilities. So that's everything within these 12 months and further out. So their total liabilities is $58.1 billion. So if this company had to dissolve itself, it literally could pay off all of its liabilities, like all of it in total, and still have money left over. So you want to look at things like that. So they have liquidity pretty much. But like I said, you can't just look at the balance sheet. You have to look at the income statement. So let's go to the income statement. So when we look at the income statements, they have $44.9 billion in total revenue and a net income of $3.4 billion. So they're in a really good place. They have pretty much cash flow. They have profits. Net income, that's pretty good. So let's take that $3.4 billion, subtract it from the capital expenditures, and see what the free cash flow is, or pretty much the profits. So in T-Mobile's case, like I said, they have a net income of $3.4 billion, but their capital expenditures is $6.9 billion. And that leaves you with pretty much $2.9 billion in the hole at the end of the day. Like I said, that's not bad. This is still considered a growth company, and I would say a really good growth company considering that you're outpacing the S&P 500 and the other top indexes in the stock market. So if this is a company that you are interested in buying or purchasing, I definitely would say be very wary. But unless everyone stopped paying their cell phone bill with T-Mobile and pretty much shut down, T-Mobile isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I'm just going to say it like that. And they are growing rapidly. I will say that. Their revenue is probably about to double when they take on Sprint. I don't know the revenue of Sprint, but they're pretty much about to be big. And with that bandwidth that they're going to get from Sprint, they can definitely underprice AT&T and Verizon together. So they can pretty much control the prices of the market with that. And that's going to be big for them, especially with AT&T and Verizon being their top two competitors. They will definitely have a nice footprint in the communication services. But that's just my take on this company. Like I said, later on I'll do a video comparing AT&T to T-Mobile. But until then, just have some fail-safe investments, and let's get it, let's do it. Hit that subscribe button.